signed my name and put a 77, and I laughed about it, and then they approved it. I was like, well, I guess I think that's now going to be on my license.
I'm not judging anybody. I look at myself as a crew chief. I have been all my life, and I think, would I have done that?
You know, you never know when you're just going to have an off weekend.
I've kind of gotten the ability to have the platform that I want, and it is my platform, and I can speak to whatever I feel like talking about.
We were in the mix, and it makes it a lot more fun when you're in the mix than you are just, struggling and trying to figure out what direction to go.
Yeah, it's tough, and sorry for being bouncy, the roads here. If you have, the all-you-can-eat buffet every single day of the week, people are going to get tired of it. So if it's a special thing, I think people get more excited for it. Hi, Bo! Raise your hand up so she can see it. There you go.
So even as a couple, I think it was,
Thanks, buddy.
Very head-scratching why at the beginning all four of us just went instantly straight to the back. We just really struggled.
So we are joined now by our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who's also the crew chief for the number 75 Food Country Truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. Chris, I mean, we have to talk about this finish at Atlanta, right? I mean, it was incredible. To use the words of DW at the Darlington race, have you ever?
I've never seen anything quite like that. I remembered early 80s, Darrell Waltrip and Ron Bouchard won the race at Talladega. I can't remember. I think it was Terry Labonte was the other involved party of a three-wide coming to the line, checkered flag, and Ron Bouchard snuck through in the 47 Jack Beebe car and won the race, his first race. And I remember Darrell saying, where did he come from? But what we saw last Sunday night, and you got to remember, not only three wide the front row, but then the second row and the next row, and I don't know how many rows back, were all three wide. They were all looking for a place to go. They were probably all wondering if they were going to live through this thing. And then, the margin of victory was probably that far, maybe. Unbelievable. At a 1.5 mile racetrack, 3.5 hours of racing and come down to that. And, Suarez kind of came sort of out of nowhere on the outside and passed them both and left everybody shocked. And, he was a very popular victory. He's a great young man and a very popular victory. But what a great finish to a really good race at a fast racetrack. Unbelievable. Just really cool.
So back-to-back super speedways to start the season, and you see in the points how mumbo-jumbo they are. The only driver to have top tens in both races, I believe, is Bubba Wallace, who finished fifth in both races.
I think you're right.
Maybe fifth and sixth, but I think it was fifth in both races. How much does that shake up the season to have two wild cards to start the year? Because there are some drivers already early in the season that are used to be in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, that are in big trouble.
They're way back. They've done fell off the back of the bus, and the bus is going that way. But, we're 2 races in. They're going to Las Vegas, and this early part of the year, man, is happening pretty fast. There's no time to breathe, no time to take a break. They're off to the West Coast a couple of times. Couple of weeks, they'll be right down here at Bristol at our favorite track. And, it's go, cat, go. And you were mentioning Hamlin and Logano. They're every year, they're championship contenders. They're solid. They're two of the guys that are going to be in there. And right now, they're way back. So I think at this time, it's not a time to panic. Nobody push 911 button, or don't make knee-jerk decisions. Don't fire everybody there and hire new people or nothing like that. I think it's just they just got to dig down, focus, get all the detail. And now we were talking the other day about our series, about the big picture, what the big picture used to be. Well, Heather, now the big picture is to win a race. It's not so much put yourself in the top 10 in points and stay there, or top 5 or whatever. The big picture is to win a race so you can get in that elite group of 16 at the end of the year and go for a championship. Now, not many winners throughout the year happen, then yeah, points are going to make a difference, but I don't think there's much chance of that. There's going to be various winners. There's going to be several. We've seen that. It's going to happen. So it's it's a wild start, and I think it's going to be a wild season, and just all I can say is just watch and hang on.
All right, let's talk about a few crew chief things with you. First of all,
Okay.
I want to talk about the Joey Logano penalty and his webbed glove, or as Dirty Mo Media put it, caught webbed-handed. First of all, I think this is incredibly creative, and I give them kudos for even thinking of it. But I'm also in the Denny Hamlin camp of, was the risk worth the reward? Because there's cameras everywhere and you were probably going to get caught. But it probably did win him a pole at the Daytona 500, so I don't know where that is. But can you just talk about that penalty, why they did it, and what you think of all that?
Well, I think that you know, I'm not judging anybody. I look at myself as a crew chief. I have been all my life, and I think, would I have done that? And yeah, I don't know if I'd have done that or not, but Heather, nowadays, you look for everything. I mean, this stuff is so close. It's so competitive. They're looking for little bits everywhere they can look. Most of those things are at least in the gray area. You know, there's not many obvious legal things that are blatantly legal that left out there that everybody's not already doing, trying to max out everything they could do, and they're looking for little things that like may be in the gray area and may say, well, we might get away with this. They obviously felt like it was worth the risk, and I really, from what little bit I've reached out and asked people, I don't think they were the only ones doing it. I think it's been going on. I think, you know, pulling the window net forward and trying to block off that A-post part, I call A-post part, is not a new thing. And I think now, like you said, there are cameras on top of the cameras, and they're looking everywhere, and they're looking for everything. And I think that's a trend that's not going to go away. I think NASCAR is going to use cameras. They're going to use videography. They're going to use whatever they can use because there's not that many officials. They can't have an official riding in the car with everybody. So it kind of happened. I think it's something a little bit to laugh about.
Do you agree with Denny Hamlin that somebody in the garage area probably ratted him out?
Maybe so. But I mean, it would not surprise me, not even that little bit, that would happen. I mean, that's how things are, especially in the Cup Series. It's dog eat dog. But on the other hand, what you said about the cameras being inside the car, looking everywhere, it's a good possibility that they were just kept looking for something else, and they're saying, "Oh, wait a minute, that glove looks kind of funky," you know. So, who knows? Maybe that's one thing that will now go away, and they'll be looking for something else. They may put webbing on their shoes or something and put their shoe up there. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
So the other big penalty of the week came to two Stewart-Haas racing cars for manipulation of, and I'm not even sure what the part is, but something to do with the roof bars. And that's all real technical, and I don't know that makes much of a difference. But for Stewart-Haas Racing and those two drivers, Ryan Preece now has 0 points, and Noah Gragson now has -6 points. Wow. That's a big hole for those two teams to pull out of.
That's a big hole. And Heather, let's face it, we talked about Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano being a big hole, but let's face it, those are two drivers and two teams that are going to win. They're going to win a race pretty soon. So then we're going to be saying, oh, they're in the playoffs. What were we worrying about? But now, Stewart-Haas as a company has not been a power force for a while. They're now without Kevin Harvick, who was probably the best driver they ever had and the best driver the series saw in a long time. So they got some young guys, some new blood, some things in there. So for those two guys from that company, those two teams to say, okay, yeah, they can dig out of this, you're like, it may take a while. You know, it might take a while, and it's a pretty big hole. So I don't know exactly what the infraction was. Apparently they thought they were doing something that had to do with aerodynamics. It had to be something that they were trying to get an advantage with aerodynamics by letting something flex or cave in or be weaker or something. And I don't know. I'm sure right now they're probably wish we hadn't have done that. So anyway, it just puts them in a little bit bigger hole that, I mean, the people within that team, that company, those drivers, those crew chiefs, they're going to have to take a deep breath and dig down and gut it out, because now they got a long season in front of them and they got some ground to make up.
Third crew chief type question. Bob Pockris tweeted today, which is Thursday, that the Cup teams have been notified that they need to have defoggers in their cars for Bristol, which would lead one to think that they are prepared to run on the wet tires. They did the test at Bristol a few weeks ago on the wet tires. What are your thoughts about? They're not going to race in the rain. They're not making them put windshield wipers on there. Not going to have the flaps on them. What is your thought about racing in the, I guess, damp at Bristol?
Heather, that's a tough one. We kind of got the same notification for the truck series. You know, basically, we don't have to have the window wipers. We don't have to have the flashing lights. We do have to have wet weather tires available, and we have to have a defroster that would, I guess, keep the window defrosted in case we did start in the rain or in the wet. I understand. I think I understand NASCAR's side of this and maybe the racetrack's side of this, that like, hey, we want to be able to go on with the show no matter what, but we don't want to be racing when it's raining. That's a little bit, to me, walking the fence a little bit. The defroster stuff is not a big expense and not a big deal as far as putting it in there and having it ready and available. The 2 extra sets of tires are a little bit of an expense, although there's less restriction on those. You can use them from week to week. I don't know. I guess I would defer that to, you know, my question would be to the fans, to the spectators. Are you going to sit in the stands when it's wet, when it's raining, and watch the race?
What about snow flurries? Because it is March 17th.
Well, it is March 17th, and yes, I have sat down there and stood down there and worked down there in the snow.
Would this be something appropriate for that kind of weather?
It very well could be, you know, because snow flurries are not going to be as a big of an impediment, I believe, as actual rain falling. And to me, one way of looking at it is you say, well, Bristol's too fast. They wouldn't want to be racing in the rain. But think about it. It's got the steepest banks of any short track, any racetrack really, and it's concrete. So water's going to dissipate off that and run off that banking probably quicker than any other track. So you get a few cars out there and keep them running for a few laps. A half-mile track, 40 cars are going to cover the whole track. All the way around, a single line is going to pretty much cover everything. So there's not going to be any, there's going to be heat in it all the time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So drying would probably be pretty quick. So does it help get us a race in when it's supposed to, you know, instead of sending everybody home and coming back tomorrow? Maybe. Maybe.
We do have a race this week in Vegas. We're going west. Kind of most drivers I talk to consider this kind of the first true test for the teams and what they have because of the super speedways being kind of their own animal. What should we be looking for this week at Vegas?
Just it's another fast 1.5 mile racetrack, but it's not a speedway. It's not going to be like Atlanta where everything's wide open. Doesn't matter running 3 and 4 wide like speedway racing. It's going to be, you know, full out. The handling is going to be a big issue, and it's going to be aerodynamics handling. How much grip, how much downforce, how much aero balance the cars are going to have for the drivers to be able to run wide open as much as they can. Las Vegas is a fast racetrack. It's very bumpy, especially in turn 1 and 2 over the tunnel. That always presents a real serious set of issues for driver and crew chief and race engineers to get that truck or car to be comfortable, to have grip, to be stable over those bumps. It'll change through the race because of the weather in the desert, you know, no mountain cover, probably going to be clear and sunny and then really cold at night. The track loses grip every time they go out there because of it being in the desert and getting baked every day. I couldn't tell you who I would favor to go out there. I think it's going to be another show up and let's see what happened. And I think it'll be, at the end of the day, I think it'll be a good race. They'll have some pit strategy, gas mileage again involved in the finish, you know, affecting the finish. I don't know. I would almost say that you're going to see Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin really come prepared with all the bullets they can bring, because they're the ones that have a lot to make up. So they want to make it up as soon as possible, and both of those guys can win there. So we'll see.
Appreciate your time for coming in and joining me this week. I'll start with this. There's a little bit of chaos because I'm in the studio and they're wrapping up another shoot, so I apologize for that, first of all.
Yeah, no worries.
So you're finishing up your first couple of races full season as a rookie. I know you raced a bunch last year, so I don't know if I can even technically call you a rookie, although you're officially one. But how's it going with your new team through the first couple of 2 or 3 races here?
I'm excited for sure to keep going. Super speedway wise, we didn't have the best of luck per se for Daytona and Atlanta. Just normal super speedway racing got stuck in really bad spots and just wrong place, wrong time. But yeah, excited to head back to Vegas. I was able to race Vegas last year. To your point, I got a few races last year, a good handful of them in the Cup car, and glad Vegas was one of them. So excited for this week to hopefully set us up for the next couple weeks, and being this is the first mile and a half of the year.
Is this when you guys really start kind of judging what you guys have? Because you mentioned, Atlanta and Daytona are such wild cards. When I've talked to other drivers, they feel like this is when you're really going to know which teams have something this year.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the race everybody kind of has circled to really put all their eggs in the basket to really know where their mile and a half package is going to be. This is where we race majority of our races, or at least most of, is the mile and a half. So if you're going to be good at this one, it's really going to set you up and hopefully really kickstart your year, especially if you were either in a hole or you got a lot of good points. You're hoping to keep all those and set it up right, and that's where we're at. I think is me and Luke last year we really focused on the mile and a half being during the off season because I thought that was our strong suit. So we just wanted to keep improving on that, and just excited to get going.
So much change for your race team, so much expansion, you yourself included. What's the transition been like from the trucks to the Cups, and a team that you've worked with a little bit, but a new team? What's all that been like for you?
It's been huge, huge change. But luckily, I did get to run all those races last year that it kind of felt like I already got to do this year almost. I got to, I signed my Cup deal, and then all of a sudden I got added all these races, and then I had the off season, then get back racing. It felt like I was already, I was already racing Cup. And this somewhat, oddly enough, feels like my second year in Cup. It's just weirdly enough of how it all worked out. Being that I got to run almost every week the last few weeks of the year, and then just felt like I was ready to get back going and not get started, which I think is huge. And then with Spire, they're constantly changing, constantly upgrading, constantly getting new pieces and parts and people. That's been super cool to be a part of and be at this building. Super thankful that I got to go race trucks and fight for a championship last year. But I feel like this is my home for hopefully a long time, and to see it start, just the start process of where I walked in the first time in the off season to now has already been a huge change that it's been really rewarding and exciting to see.
What's the goal for this year? What do you and what does your team want to do this year?
We just want to run as well as we possibly can. Obviously win Rookie of the Year would be huge, but more than anything, we just want to run really well and just perform as high as we can and what we feel like. And not really sure what that means yet, but just keep constantly improving is the biggest thing.
All right, I got to ask you because I saw it on Twitter. Tell me about this driver's license signature. I thought that was hysterical. Were you just in autograph mode, or what went on there?
Yeah, I went home to renew my license, and my mom had some autograph cards that she wanted me to sign for her store, and I signed signing a nonstop with whatever she had or her friends or anybody wanted, and head down the street, 5 minutes, and sign my name and put a 77, and I laughed about it, and then they approved it. I was like, well, I guess I think that's now going to be on my license. And sure enough, I told the story. I was like, man, I really hope they didn't take it off, because that, then I'd have to be like, yeah, they ended up taking it off, and I finally got the license, and sure enough, there it is.
That's funny. You're going to have to sign all your official documents with 77 on the back end. One final question about this week. What are your kind of goals for Vegas? I mean, obviously you've run this race with your race team. Do you think you can get, top 15, top 10? What are you kind of going into the week for Vegas looking at?
I don't really know. Me and Luke have ran top 15 in the mile and a half slate in the year last year. So it'd be nice to be towards that. But really, we don't 100% know. We think we got me and Luke compared to what we had last year and came with, and we feel like we'd be a lot better. But also, too, everybody else is probably thinking the same thing. So it's, I don't really know. I'd like to just be competitive and moving forward and just have speed. That's just the biggest thing.
Awesome. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.